It's freedom or death. We got to fight the powers that be. Fight the power. Fight the power.
You are listening to the Black Pack here on KBLA Talk 1580. I am your host, Adrianne Shropshire. And as you all know, we have been talking about the redistricting showdown, the redistricting standoff, whatever terms we're using for it right now on the show for the past couple of weeks. We've watched as there have been targeted attacks on our representatives. We know that Governor Greg Abbott has, at the behest of President Donald Trump, begun, I was going to say, but is already in process of redrawing the maps in Texas to give Republicans an advantage in Congress. We know that this is not how things are supposed to work, that we don't just redraw lines whenever we feel like it. And we certainly do not redraw lines to give our party an advantage when we're worried about being able to win in a midterm election cycle. I know that all of you have been following the news. You know that Texas Democrats have been courageous in pushing back and saying we will not be a party to this process. You all know that they left the state to ensure that there would not be a quorum for this vote to take place. And so I'm so pleased to be joined by Texas State Representative Charlene Ward Johnson to talk to us about what is happening, where things stand. And I again want to just thank you all for the courage that you're showing for all of us. But wanted to just start by asking how you all are doing. I know you had a scare earlier in the week when some folks learned of your location and there was a bomb threat. But how are you all? How are you all doing?
We are still remaining strong. The bomb threat, did shake us a little bit, but we knew that to expect anything coming from the government and coming with who we have in office as the president. So we are still remaining strong together because we understand that we are in this fight for a bigger cause than us. So
Mhm.
it just made us to be stronger. We understand, the harder we push, the more mad they're going to get, but we have to continue to get our message out, which is why I'm so glad that I'm on your show to help people understand that this fight isn't just about Texas.
Right.
This what we're going through will impact all of the United States. So in all other states as well. But we're hanging in there and we're very strong.
Well, that's right. I think that this is the important thing for people to recognize because it could be easy to say, well, that's Texas, and you know how they do things in Texas, and that doesn't affect the rest of us. But this is, in fact, about our political representation. It is about equal representation. It is about a fight to ensure the political power of communities, that we are able to elect our own representatives, to choose those who we think are going to be in the best representatives of our community. But I have to imagine that when you first ran for office, maybe you did, but did you imagine that this would be the thing that you would have to do, right, in terms of what this fight is, but also really standing up not just for your constituents, but for the whole of Texas and actually for the whole of the United States?
No, and I am a first time legislator. So this is new to me. I'm not new to this type of fight, but I just did not imagine that I would have to leave the state in order to fight for democracy against a system that was trying to attack Black and brown people. We are still in a fight fighting racism. And
Right.
so I didn't know that I would have to go through this, at my first term, in a special session, that this is what we're
Right.
doing.
Right. In a special session. And so just will you just set the context for us here
Okay.
about what happened? Because this is also just out of order for what should be happening in the Texas state legislature right now.
Right. Our regular session ran for 140 days from January to June. So you pass bills, pass the budget, because that's the main thing we as legislators do is to pass the budget, create policies. So, but Governor Abbott decided to call a special session, and he has it right. He has the authority to call a special session at any time.
Right.
And he got this letter from the Department of Justice, which sent by Trump's Department of Justice, to add more Republican seats. And Trump came up with 5 seats. He didn't just come up with that. He just knew he could already have 5 seats out of Texas. So we just had a major flood where 140 people have lost their lives. People are still dealing with their loved ones, trying to start this life without their loved ones as a result of the flood in Kerr County, which is in central Texas. That was on everybody's mind right there. Special session was supposed to be about how to mitigate resources or mitigate more people having to do with that, or other cities or other counties having to do with flood. That was supposed to be how to get more funding in the area to prevent it from happening again and to prevent it from happening in other areas. But the first thing that he decided to do when he set the agenda was to talk about the maps, was to do what Trump asked him to do. Somebody that does not live in Texas. This is not something that the people of Texas have asked for. They're asking for help for the families that have lost their lives, and to how can we stop this from happening again. That should have been the main priority. We have been in session for 2 weeks and we have not discussed flooding. The only thing that they have discussed was this map. They had hearings across the state, 3 hearings, but they did not show anybody the maps. They were having the hearings without telling people what the maps were. They were acting like they didn't know what the maps, when the maps are going to come out. Right after they had the public hearing, they decided to show us the map and have a 48-hour notice for people to come to talk against it. So it was a sham process just to check some boxes to say that we did give the people a chance to talk. So that was just a travesty on these maps that attacks 5 minority Democratic districts.
Yeah. So when we come forward, I want to talk a little bit about that piece in particular, who got cut out in the maps and what it means for districts like yours. And also just sad that there's a real crisis happening in Texas that the governor and the Republican legislators are not dealing with, instead manufacturing one, and that it will bring real harm to communities. So when we come forward, more in our conversation with Representative Charlene Ward Johnson. Stay with us.
You're part of the Black Pack with Adrianne Shropshire on KBLA Talk 1580.
Why'd I go to the doctor? My heart would race just taking my son to practice. It didn't feel right. So I got checked out. Turns out I have atrial fibrillation, which increases the risk of stroke about 5 times.
Symptoms like irregular heartbeat, heart racing, chest pain, shortness of breath, fatigue, or lightheadedness can come and go. But if it's AFib, the risk of stroke remains. If you have symptoms, contact a doctor.
I'm so glad I did.
Visit notimetowait.com. Sponsored by Bristol-Myers Squibb and Pfizer.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 is committed to self-care and community well-being. Walk Good LA was formed in June 2020, inspired by the Black Lives Matter movement and the beginning stages of the COVID-19 pandemic. What began as a few minutes of breath work and yoga meditation before protests against police brutality turned into a safe space for the community to heal in hard times. The immensely positive response from the community transformed the momentum into a movement. Today, Walk Good LA is a Black and Brown-led community wellness organization based in Los Angeles. They provide spaces for healing through community yoga classes, guided meditations, hikes, run clubs, and other activations throughout Los Angeles that attract hundreds of members weekly. With the help of Propel and Michael B. Jordan, they now have a yoga and wellness studio in Los Angeles called the Walk Good Yard. To join their mailing list and connect with healing spaces, please visit walkgoodla.org. That's walkgoodla.org. Or find them on Instagram at walkgoodla. This is a community call to action, a community call to healing from KBLA Talk 1580.
The California Crusader newspaper would like to thank all of our subscribers for their support throughout the years, proudly serving the South Los Angeles and South Bay areas for more than 40 years. The California Crusader is a multicultural, Black-owned, adjudicated newspaper that focuses on providing newsworthy information to the people in our community. We're constantly looking for ways to assist businesses in our community to connect with our subscribers. We provide low-cost, effective ways to promote your business with our reasonable and affordable advertising rates. You can participate by suggesting, sharing, and submitting your stories on the California Crusader newspaper Community Share Facebook group page, or visit our website at cal-cruise-news.com. That's calcruisenews.com. Then click on the Submit Now button located on the top right corner of the homepage, or text CCN to 42828. Again, text CCN to 42828. The California Crusader newspaper, working together to build a better community for our future. Subscribe today.
You don't talk to me like that. You don't talk to your mommy like that.
Unlike your mama, we can handle your black talk on the Black Pack with Adrianne Shropshire.
You are listening to the Black Pack, and we are here with Texas State Representative Charlene Ward Johnson, talking about what is happening in Texas, talking about the representatives and their fight. You said earlier that you never thought you'd have to leave Texas to fight for democracy, and I thought, well, you'd also having to leave Texas to fight for Texas. Why? But I wanted to talk about the maps. In our conversation just a little bit ago, you were talking about the Democratic districts that will be changed or that are changed in this new map that they're trying to pass. Talk about those districts. That is also not just random. In terms of who is being eliminated. And I think, again, this is about representation for our communities, and we would lose it, right, with these maps.
Exactly. So that the governor and with the Department of Justice at the request of the president is attacking. It's 4 that they wrote in the letter, but it's more than 4 that they're going to attack. And these are minority Democratic districts, one of the biggest ones that they're choosing to attack. One of them is the Congressman Al Green, which is CD9. And Congressman Al Green has been coming up to Trump, being very vocal of his dislike for Trump.
Yep.
And he takes Al Green's district and makes it a Republican district. They draw Congressman Al Green out of his district and put it into the Congressional District 18. Now, Congressional District 18 was held previously by Congressman Sylvester Turner, who passed away in March. Governor Abbott has not called a special election for that. That seat is currently vacant, and that's the district that I sit in. So we have not had representation in D.C. that has to do with bringing funding and resources to our district. We have missed out on that. And that lets you know that he does not care about Black and brown communities, because he has not let us have representation. And that's how Trump was able to get that bill passed, the big bad bill, by 1 vote. That could have been the vote that came out of our Democratic district.
A seat that's been vacant.
That's it. And it's going to be vacant until December. The election isn't until November. If there's a runoff, that's December.
Right.
So we would have gone all these months with not having anybody there. So he takes that historically Black Congressional 18 and changes that to Sylvia Garcia, who's a Hispanic, right? And so she's moved out of her district and put into a predominantly Black district. So they want to put Black and brown together so we can fight over 1 seat.
Yep.
In that Congressional District 18, which is my district, is 2 historically Black neighborhoods that are being moved out and put into another district. And we know Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett has been very vocal.
Yep.
She is now moved out of her district and moved into another district as well, with Mark Vesey as well. So they are redrawing these lines to dilute the Black vote.
Yeah.
This is racism at its best. We have to call it what it is. They want to dilute the Black vote, create more Republican seats.
Right.
And while they are suppressing our vote.
Right.
We don't get to choose who we vote for. They want to choose who votes for them. They are suppressing the Black vote by redrawing these lines and diluting these districts, which gives us less voting power than we have right now. And as diverse as the state of Texas is, we need to have more diversity, representing the diversity, but they are trying to reduce it. They're reducing it.
And the truth be told, it's already racially gerrymandered, right? There's already not enough, right? There's not enough representation
There's
as it
not
is
enough
right now.
representation.
Right.
Exactly. It's not enough representation of color in DC right now. So this map is not what the people asked for. It's mid-decade, which is they're using wasting tax dollars,
Right.
resources on this map when we need to be using that money somewhere else. We needed that money to be used somewhere else, but instead he's taking the tax dollars and the resources to do this map that the Texans have not asked for.
Right. Well,
Now you remember back in I'm sorry, but a few years ago when Trump went to the Secretary of State or the Lieutenant Governor in Atlanta and said he needed 11,000 votes, and they said no, you can't.
yeah.
We're not doing that. We needed our governor to stand up to Trump like that, but he didn't. Instead, he folded and just handed the black people the black votes over.
Right. He said, "How fast can I get those seats for you?" Right. Instead of no.
Exactly.
And it's so disrespectful. I mean,
Mhm.
there's not even a strong enough word to the black residents, right, in these districts to simply say we're gonna, and I think to your point too, the sort of pitting black and brown communities against each other, right,
Mhm.
and just sort of dismissing everyone, right.
Right.
Today, because we also know that there are two, I think there's two, you'll correct me, I think there's also two Latino districts that will
Mhm.
two representatives,
Right.
Latino representatives that will also lose their seats, right? So
Correct.
it is racial gerrymandering. It is there is no way to say it. There's no way to talk
No,
about it, right? There's no other term to
no
use.
way, no other term, no way to describe it. We have to call it what it is.
Yeah. And so let's talk a little bit about the impact that that has on the communities when we think about this kind of redrawing of lines. We
Mhm.
know the constituent services that people rely on. Let's talk about that because there are real implications. This isn't just etch a sketch. I think I heard Congresswoman Crockett the other day talking about etch a sketch and redrawing
Mhm.
the lines. But it's not just that. Like this has real impact on people's lives when you start shifting around who their representatives are and sort of packing people right into single districts.
Exactly. It has, right now people are dealing with having to buy groceries to feed their kids or to feed themselves. The prices are going up, even property taxes. People are being taxed out of their homes because of the increase in property taxes. And a lot of times people do need resources that they need to call their government representative to get them if they have a problem, if a veteran has a problem, veteran issues, and we have to call somebody that understands and that can relate to what our issues are in our community. So if you have somebody that's not connected to your community, they're not going to understand your plight. They're not going to fight for what you need to come in your community. People need jobs, health care. There's oftentimes a food desert. But if those people are not aware of what's going on in that community, they won't be able to help them at the rate that they need the help, or they need to supply, guidance to. So that's what that's coming down. People trying to live their everyday life, just trying to make ends meet.
Hmm.
Issues that come up, it's better to have that representation that can relate to what you need and what they can give you with that experience that they've been through
Yeah.
themselves. So
Yeah.
it's very, but once you get moved out of your district to another district that doesn't have those same issues, it's going to be really hard for us to
Right.
continue our plight and to continue to have our voices heard because we want our voices to be heard just as much. Because even Trump said he felt like they was entitled, and that's the issue. People think he make them Republicans think that they're entitled to do whatever they can, whatever they want to do, but it's
Yeah.
often causing us to be at a loss when they continue, even if we ask for equal because they've been so entitled. They feel
Hmm.
like, oh, now I'm not getting my way, even
Yeah.
though we're just asking for equal access. We're asking for equal opportunities. That's
Yeah.
all we're asking for. And even they think that's a threat to their livelihood.
I want to talk about some of the language that's been used. So we've been talking about like there's no other way to call this other than what it is.
Mhm.
But some of the language on the other side is just beyond. And so like like this idea of Trump saying, that he should be basically like I won the election, I should be able to do whatever I want. give me whatever seats that I want. You all owe me, right? In some ways, these seats, which is not how any of this works. That is not how democracy works, right? You don't get to
Right,
you win an election. And again, the state's already gerrymandered, so there's already
right,
unequal
right.
representation. Now you want to make
Exactly.
it more unequal. But this, I heard Cornyn say the other day, yesterday maybe even, he was talking about, their threats against you all, right?
Mm-hmm.
What they're going to do, and there's this sort of mobilizing federal law enforcement, sending the FBI to come and find you all. And he referred to
Mm-hmm.
you all as runaways. Now, I read that and I thought, well, that language is intentional,
Mm-hmm.
right? When
Yes.
you start referring to folks who are, in fact, trying to help America be the best version of herself, by ensuring equal representation in the way that is the sort of highest ideals of the nation. And you start talking about mobilizing law enforcement to go into states to find runaways. Well,
Mm-hmm.
that language means something historically,
Mm-hmm.
um, in this
Mm-hmm.
country, right? It means
Mm-hmm.
Fugitive Slave Act, right? It
Mm-hmm.
means runaway slaves, right? It means all of
Right.
those things. And the language is intentional and I think very dangerous, that we're asking Americans to accept that kind of language. And I just wonder how that all is landing on you all, as you are, watching this play out and having yourselves be referred to in terms like that.
Right. It's infuriating, because the bomb threat that happened yesterday came after the lieutenant governor, and Carter was saying to hunt them down and drag them back.
Yeah.
See, that's how you incite people
Yep.
to come and just do those type of things,
Right.
putting our lives at danger, our families back at home in danger. That's what happened on January the 6th. It's
Yep.
that language that they're using to try, and that, incites people to do the crazy things that, put us at safety. And all we're doing is continue to put our messaging out, make this a fair map process, be fair about it, let what the people want be the priority of the session. But instead, you want to treat us that we're not doing our job. We are doing what we were elected to do,
Right.
and that is to take care of our constituents. And that's what we're exactly doing, to make sure they have fair representation, to make sure their voices are heard, and their priorities are just as important as the Republicans think that theirs are.
Right.
So we to be calling us fugitives and run, we have not run away from anything. We are standing in here and fighting for democracy, fighting for fair representation, and fighting against this racist attempt
Yeah.
to dilute our voice and our voting.
So let me ask you, what you're hearing from your constituents. Because this is, I know, there's a lot of attention on what the Republicans are doing. There's attention on you
Mm-hmm.
all, and there should be, in how you're standing up. But I wonder how your constituents, the folks in the communities that make up your district, what are you hearing from them, and how are they feeling right now?
They are feeling very proud of us. They're being very supportive. They're worried about these threats, and we have to assure them that these are just blanket threats, that they're just trying to make us, put us in a bad light for shining a light on what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
They've been very supportive. My constituents have, reached out, emailed, and just tell me how proud they are that I'm fighting for them, because they understand what's at stake. They're, like I said, we're in the district that does not have representation right now. So to come and redraw them out of a district that's been historically theirs for years is very upsetting to them. And they want to see this fight. They want to see us, prevail. They want to support us, and they want to do everything they can to let the people here, the other Democrats, that they're supporting our efforts. So they all want to, how can we help? What can we do? That they're being very supportive.
And just to be clear geographically for folks who don't understand, where in Texas we're talking about Houston, right? So when
Mm-hmm.
you're saying
Houston.
maybe like historic Black community,
Yeah,
you're
sorry.
talking about the congressional seat that has been left vacant, that has no
Mm-hmm.
representation in Congress right now. We're talking about Houston. And
Houston.
right, I think that's it's important for people to
Mm-hmm.
understand, what it is that we're saying, who it is that's being written out right now.
Right. It's Houston and the Democratic precincts, the Democratic districts in Harris County and Dallas County. Those are the biggest Democratic voting blocks that are under attack right now. In addition, there are other Hispanic areas that are being attacked, but those are Democratic. So we will understand they want to come after the Democrats.
Right.
But they more are coming out of the Black people because the highest voting is Houston and Dallas. That's your highest voting Black box right there.
And I think one of the other things that folks don't know is that Texas has the highest concentration of Black voters in the country, right? And so I think that people don't understand the political power that Black folks in the state of Texas have. And so there's a lot going on here, right? In terms of the future of Texas, right? In terms of, when we think about political power broadly, but also who makes up the state of Texas. I think people get lost sometimes because we don't hear about the sheer numbers, right, of Black folks, period, in Texas, but also the political power that Black folks in Houston can have.
Exactly.
Texas can have.
You're exactly right. It's a strong voting from Black people in Houston and Dallas, very strong, and they strongly vote for Democrats.
Yeah. Well, I just want to thank you so much. I mean, again, just to offer my appreciation to you all for what you are doing, for how you are standing up. Again, this is not just about Texas. This is about the rest of the country, because as we know, there are plans to take this redistricting nonsense into other states as well. Democratic governors like our own here in California are responding, but you all are really on the front line and leading the way. So I want to, again, thank you, Representative Ward Johnson, for joining us, for talking us through where you all are, and just good luck and prayers to you all. This is KBLA
so
1580. Stay with us.
More of the Black Pack with Adrianne Shropshire on KBLA Talk 1580 when we come forward.
Amber Payton with BIN News Now. Black Maryland Governor Wes Moore is awarding $17 million for energy upgrades in Maryland schools through the Decarbonizing Public Schools program. 30 schools statewide will benefit. A judge has cleared Drew Dixon to move forward with her lawsuit against former music exec L.A. Reid. She claims he blocked major deals after she rejected his advances. The case proceeds under New York's Adult Survivors Act. Reid denies the allegations and now needs new legal counsel. Trial is set for September. Advocates are pushing Tampa, Florida city leaders to invest in restoring Zion Cemetery, the city's first burial ground for African Americans. Over time, the site was neglected and built over by homes and businesses. Geraldine Williams, who has ancestors buried there, appeared before the city council asking for $8 million to create a memorial and research center. While no vote was taken, Williams remains determined. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
This summer, come aboard Long Beach's iconic Queen Mary. With guided tours, 25-plus exhibits, and decades of history to explore, it's the perfect day out. Make your way to the Queen Mary and experience it all for yourself. For more information, visit queenmary.com.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The LA Sparks' impressive turnaround in the WNBA continues. They beat the Connecticut Sun Thursday night 102-91, 21 points for Derica Hamby. The Sparks are 8-1 in their last 9 games to improve to 14-15. The LSU women's basketball program is showing some love for HBCU teams. The Southeastern Conference powerhouse has 4 HBCU opponents on their schedule this season: Langston University, Alcorn State, Morgan State, and Alabama State. Interesting development in the NFL regarding black quarterbacks. For the first time in NFL history, all 4 teams in the NFC East Division have a black starting quarterback. Dak Prescott with the Dallas Cowboys, Jalen Hurts with the Philadelphia Eagles, Jayden Daniels of Magic Johnson's Washington Commanders, and Russell Wilson with the New York Giants. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
Yeah, y'all, come on. Pick up the drum.
At KBLA Talk 1580, we fight the power every day.
Yeah, gotta give us what we want. Gotta give us what we need. Hey!
I listen to KBLA and I love the commercials. I know what the commercials mean. I also, if I'm looking and trying to figure something out, I need something to talk to me that might hit me. And it happens on TV because, you know, every time they show a sporting event, they got the pharmaceutical companies back to back to back telling people how to fix the sickness on the same stuff that they sell them. So we get it.
Yep, we get it too, Chuck D. And that's why at KBLA Talk 1580, we don't black down.
Drop it! Our freedom of speech is freedom of death. We got to fight the powers that be. Fight the power! Fight the power!
You have cancer. The 3 words no one wants to hear. Of the cancers that impact our community, lung cancer is the most dangerous. More people succumb to lung cancer than colon, breast, and prostate combined. Black men are 12% more likely to develop lung cancer, and cases for black women are rising. Early detection and comprehensive treatment is the best way to beat this dreaded disease. Providence is a research leader in multi-cancer early detection, offering blood tests that identify fast-spreading cancers that don't show symptoms in early stages. The Providence Los Angeles Integrated Network Cancer Program determines best protocols for each patient, interacting with specialists who share experiences, perspectives, and new findings specific to each case. With over 1,000 board-certified physicians, including top oncologists, surgeons, radiologists, and nurse specialists, Providence delivers whole-person care that understands your culture, values, preferences, and priorities. So, if you hear the words, "you have cancer," all you need is faith and providence.org/cancer.
I can't believe how spotless my floors look after using the Swiffer Power Mop. No more dragging around a heavy mop and messy bucket. Now I get the same deep clean without all the work. Thanks to the powerful solution and scrubbing pad of the Swiffer Power Mop, dirt and grime don't stand a chance, and I don't break a sweat. Mic drop. Mop drop.
Swiffer Power Mop. Swiffer Power Mop.
A smarter way to mop. Try it or your money back.
Black voices, they matter here, and we've got a lot to talk about. KBLA Talk 1580. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Imagine a Los Angeles where everyone can thrive, where communities have access to the resources they need to succeed. That's the vision of Detours Mentoring Group, Inc. They're dedicated to improving life in LA County by providing educational support, employment assistance, and spaces for community engagement. By 2050, they want LA to be the best place to connect, create, learn, live, and play. They're working toward an education system that's well-resourced and culturally responsive, becoming a hub for artists and innovators, and making sure everyone has access to healthy food, quality healthcare, and safe housing. It's about building a future where we all have the chance to succeed. We invite you to learn more about their mission and get involved with Detours Mentoring Group, Inc. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Let's get back to more of the Black Pack with Adrianne Shropshire right now on KBLA Talk 1580.
You are listening to the Black Pack here on KBLA Talk 1580. I am your host, Adrianne Shropshire, and I am joined now by the president of the NAACP, Derek Johnson. And we're going to continue the conversation we've been having about what is happening in Texas, what is happening with the state legislators who are fighting back for Texas by being outside of Texas. But President Johnson, I wanted to just get your take on what is happening right now with the sort of redistricting stalemate that we're seeing, driven, of course, by the Trump administration and being followed through on by governors in Republican-controlled states.
Well, it's a power grab. It is an attempt to redefine the rules mid-game. Typically, redistricting is done after the taking of the census every 10 years, and the political boundary lines are settled. What I believe is taking place is the Republican Party recognized that their policies are not popular. Many Americans are upset with what they're hearing, what they're feeling, and with the reality of what's taking place. And so they're trying to fix the map so they can have an advantage in the midterm elections. It's something that we didn't think would happen, but we're here now. And it's Texas today, Florida is gearing up, Missouri is gearing up, Ohio is gearing up. And even in South Carolina, where they only have one black district, we see a member saying that they should redraw his lines. And so we are in a political fight that no one expected us to be in at this time.
And of course, when you're talking about the one district in South Carolina, we know that we're talking about Representative Jim Clyburn's seat, and the idea that that we should go from a single seat with a black congressional member in it in South Carolina, that one person being Jim Clyburn, to 0, and eliminating his seat. We were talking earlier about the idea that this is not just about Texas, and you just sort of laid that out, that there are other places that are right now gearing up, to other Republican-controlled states gearing up to follow suit behind Texas. But it doesn't mean that, folks across the country shouldn't be or make the assumption that it won't be them, that it won't be their state in this fight, whether it is because they're in a Republican-controlled state that they will also fall in line, or it's because they're in a Democratically controlled state that's going to be called on to do more. Or to do something. This is not just about one or two isolated states. The other thing that I know that I've heard people saying is that this isn't just about the midterm election, right? That it is about establishing a permanent majority for the right wing in our government, and so this is both not just about a single state. But it's also not about a single election. It is about rigging the system for every election that there is to come.
Yeah, there is a clear attempt to create an apartheid policy landscape for America. And when you run out of people numerically, you shift the rules so the rules can give you an advantage. And that's what we're witnessing. If you think about the game of chess and the squares, Texas is only one square in the overall game. And the game is about power, domination, and control. It's about regulatory authority. It is about who gets taxed, who's not taxed, and what those tax dollars are spent on. And so what we're seeing in particularly southern states or states that have historically voted for Republicans is an aggressive approach that's nationally aligned to change the role of government and the expectations people should have. In addition to that, we are witnessing many of these states that have historically voted for Democratic candidates somewhat crippled because you had a set of entities in the white progressive movement who thought that you can create these redistricting commissions so they'll be independent and nonpartisan, and there's no such thing as a nonpartisan redistricting process. Why? Because redistricting is the second most partisan activity outside of going to the polls and voting for candidates. The process of redistricting is drawing political boundary lines to define who will have the ability to elect candidates of their choice and who will not be able to elect candidates of their choice. It is the ability to determine which communities will be given privileges and advantages over other communities. It is determined based on which precincts are high performance voting precincts versus low performing voting precincts. Those are all partisan considerations that will determine how communities are able to elect candidates of choice and what public policies, what values come from that. And so as we see this power grab by conservative states, we're also watching states that are able to counter what's taking place, crippled by self-inflicted rules that should have never been put in place before. And it's not just California, it's New Jersey, it's New York. Even if New York started today to undo their commission, it would not take effect until 2028. California will have to do a ballot initiative that the legislature will have to initiate very soon, so it could be on the ballot in November in order for them to draw districts before a set time in the first quarter of next year. And so this is a game of high stakes, redefining roles of government, minimizing voices, and taking power wherever they can.
Right, and so point taken, right? So of course, whatever, we all want to see fair maps, we all want to see fair lines and all of that, but it can't just be a handful of states who commit to drawing fair districts, right, and having fair maps when the rest of the states are saying we're going to do whatever we want to do. That's how we end up where we are right now.
And it also goes to the question of how do you define fair?
Right. Yeah.
Fair to who? Fair to what? And fair to what outcome, you know? Some people may say, well, it's not fair that I inherited all this wealth and all these opportunity and I have to share it now. Some people may say, well, it's not fair that my child have to compete against other communities and kids because my child may not be as smart as those other communities or kids. It's not fair for me to pay tax dollars to ensure that public education is quality for everyone, equal for everyone, and therefore we get the best outcome because I want the privileges of my heritage. And so even the term fair is something that I resist because it all depends on who's defining fairness.
Right. Well, you and I happen to be. I feel very excited to be where you and I are right now. We are in Tunica, Mississippi. At the Mississippi Policy Conference. And we have had an opportunity to engage in a lot of very critical conversations about where we are, right, where we're going, the role of the South in the shaping of the new America, right? Because that is what we're, you know, at the end of the day, we are reshaping a new America, and we can decide what that new America is going to look like. But this conference has been around now for a number of years. You'll tell me how many. But why is it important? Why is this conference important to the work?
Well, the Congressional Black Caucus Institute started a policy retreat conference in Tunica, Mississippi. I think this is year 22. So it's been going a while. The thing I like most about it is because it is informal. It allows people to get away from the pomp, the circumstance, the bells, the whistles, and really engage and talk to one another. Lightly structured, strong attendance, a lot of focus on local with a national perspective, and that's why I think it's important. We need more spaces like this to really think about, you know, how do we navigate this current political climate in reaction, but also I've always liked the conference because we've used it to think about how do we navigate for future opportunities. So it's not just reaction. You have members of Congress that come in. You have heads of agencies, corporations, community leaders, a lot of local elected officials. So it's just a beautiful time for people to come together and really talk about concepts.
And it also shows the depth, I think, or breadth of the political work that has been done in a state like Mississippi. So you were telling me the other day about the number of black mayors in Mississippi, and I don't think that people totally understand how many cities and towns in Mississippi are actually run by black folks. How many mayors is it again?
So, you know, we were talking, I think we got about 84 mayors, and come to find out we actually have 109 African-American mayors throughout the state of Mississippi. 21 sheriffs out of 82 counties, 82 sheriffs, 21 are African-Americans. We have more black elected officials in this state than anywhere else. In fact, more than 10% of all black elected officials in the country live in Mississippi, a state with less than 2.9 million people. It's a very small state, but because of ongoing, decade-long organizing and recognizing that community-centric approaches is the most important approach to take, not egocentric. It cannot be based on a personality, a charismatic leader, a speaker. It has to be based on systemic, deep work where people can see their agencies and power can be built.
So I wanted to just touch on the fact that we're here in Mississippi. There's a conversation about the path forward. There's this conversation about Texas is very present, but not just to lament, to actually figure out what are we going to do going forward? And again, this question of what is the America that we're trying to build. So I appreciate you taking the time to step out, have this conversation with me, and talk about the redistricting in a way that I think is helpful in terms of perspective. But I don't think this is the last conversation we're going to have about it. So I want to thank you for joining me, and then ask you to come back and as this thing proceeds, because it's going to be a long haul here.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Okay, more when we come forward. This is the Black Pack.
You're part of the Black Pack with Adrianne Shropshire on KBLA Talk 1580.
JP Morgan Chase offers tips for the local business owners in 2025. Small business landscape is ever changing, and the Los Angeles market is no exception. A startup or legacy business, revisiting your mission statement and recalibrating offerings can renew opportunities for growth and innovations. Programs like Chase for Business Coaching for Impact gives entrepreneurs access to expert guidance, helping you streamline operations, strategize your growth, and navigate complex challenges. Businesses with a clear sense of purpose can navigate any challenge effectively, but also build stronger customer loyalty. Visit chase.com/coaching for impact for more information. This segment is sponsored by JP Morgan Chase.
If you're an adult in need of an accredited high school diploma, the Los Angeles Public Library can help. You could earn one for free in as few as 5 months, online with 24/7 access. You also get a personal academic coach, plus special training focused on 9 in-demand industries, as well as a resume and cover letter to advance your career. Visit the website at lapl.org/diploma. That's lapl.org/diploma.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. The Autopsy Initiative provides a second autopsy free of charge for victims' families who have lost their loved ones due to a police-related death. The services offered through the initiative include the completion of a second autopsy, disclosure of preliminary findings, and a final autopsy report. A police-related death is when an individual is harmed by police officers using deadly force, which results in an individual's death. Police-related death includes in-custody deaths, including those that arise during contact with law enforcement officers during arrest, pursuit, booking, transport, or incarceration. The Autopsy Initiative has a team of board-certified pathologists on call. An autopsy request may be completed by anyone with a close relationship with the victim, which may include the victim's spouse, partner, relative, close friend, or lawyer. To request a free second autopsy for a victim of police violence, please visit knowyourrightscamp.com. That's knowyourrightscamp.com. Then click on Autopsy, then click on Request. At KBLA, we believe in justice for victims of police violence. We say their names, and we don't black down. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Don't talk to me like that. Don't talk to your mommy like that.
Unlike your mama, we can handle your black talk on the Black Pack with Adrianne Shropshire.
This is the Black Pack, and we have been talking this hour about all things Texas, what is happening in Texas and outside of Texas as Texas Democrats left the state in order to fight for the state, as Representative Charlene Ward Johnson said. And I wanted to talk with our friend Anoa Changa, who is a journalist, who is a political and social commentator, about just what is going on here in the country that is supposed to be the greatest democracy in the world. So Anoa, folks are fighting back. They are doing whatever they can, right? Whatever it takes, any means necessary to make sure that Texans and Texans of color in particular have the representation that they deserve, and quite frankly, should be guaranteed. But your thoughts on what's happening, the kind of language that we've heard from Washington, D.C. To the Republicans in Texas, and the way that they've been referring to the legislators? And then just where do you think this is going as other states, Indiana, Missouri, other Republican controlled states start to say that they're going to do the same thing? Florida.
One of the things that I think, like, I appreciate her naming this too during the conversation. One of the things I think people don't realize is that the maps are not settled in so many places still, right? We still seeing a challenge in Texas, not to mention, as she was saying, that the congressional District 18 seat has been vacant since earlier this year. You have maps still being challenged in Louisiana, and Florida maps have still been kind of up in the air. So it's wild. I mean,
we had a ruling on Alabama today.
Yeah,
And they have to use the map that has a second Black district. Yeah.
People always talk about like, oh, I would have did this if I was alive back in the day or whatever. And it's like, well, back in the day is now, right? The time is upon us now, and we look and see the way in which the fear of Black political power. I wrote about this earlier this week. The fear of Black political power has always been a driving force for fascism and anti-democracy efforts in this country, right? And listen to her name that specifically Dallas and Houston.
Yeah.
Are the target areas. I mean, when she was referring to Trump saying, go get me more votes, they were talking about where I live, Fulton County, Atlanta, here in Georgia. They're always looking for ways to disenfranchise and undermine our vote. But like, we have to figure out how to like take a stand and like shake things up right now. Because it won't matter if we make it to 2026 elections. There won't be a midterm election. And just seeing the firestorm that is now happening around the country, and whether or not Democratic controlled states will be able to like kind of add to like rebuff what is happening in Texas. I mean, this is a real crisis. And it's not an exaggeration. We literally have the president of the United States, who believes himself to be a dictator, demanding people do what he couldn't do in 2020. And it's really sad. It's scary, as well.
Well, I think that I think the reason why we know that there is going to be an election in 2026 is because they are doing everything they can to rig it, right? So if there wasn't going to be one, they wouldn't be doing all this.
This is true. This is true.
So we know that there's gonna be one. They're gonna try and do everything they can to cheat, right? Which is what this is. And I think we don't have to, make up, euphemisms, right? Like, this is cheating. And I think, and you're right. The whole, when we think back to, and she's right? The representative is right about, using the example of Georgia, right? About find me votes. That, the sense of entitlement, right? Just go do whatever it is, right? Even if it's illegal, right? Just go do it. Give me these seats in Texas and in other places. So the part of it is, obviously about like, they're worried about 2026 because they know, I think, that they can't win. The math does not work in their favor. But the other thing is that people are unhappy in this country right now, right? We see the poll numbers in terms of the disapproval, right, of Trump and of his cronies, right? We see the outrage, right, over the Epstein files. We know that prices are about to go up, all the things, right? The economy is collapsing every time he, steps up to a mic. And they know this, right? And so I think that's the other piece that's sort of, driving this like intensity of get me seats, give me seats, give me seats.
Yeah, I mean, I really appreciate that reframing as well. And then just thinking about that and the way in which we're watching the federal government and institutions that were created specifically to protect or attempt to intervene in the subjugation inflicted upon Black folks and then other folks after us by the South, like the Department of Justice and the Civil Rights Division. Just seeing, earlier today, the announcement that they're going after New York State Attorney General Letitia James, alleging that she violated the civil rights of Donald Trump, also NRA executives in civil in the litigation that she's pursued because of fraud, right? It's like you committed fraud. You acted fraudulently against, the government and against constituents within the jurisdiction of New York State. This is not a civil rights issue. And we're seeing, even with the Texas, Democrats, those who are fighting, not just for their constituents, but for all of us in some way, seeing the FBI get involved and be like, go get them and bring them back. That is scary. And it doesn't mean that they won't come after, more people who Trump and his acolytes have identified as the enemy.
Yeah. The man said retribution when he was running. Right. He said many things. He said, vote this one time, you won't ever have to vote again. Right. So he was very clearly trying to say, like, we're going to fix this
very clearly
so that we get what we want, right, forever. But this whole thing about going after political enemies, right, like it was, and we're seeing it play out right now, right, like they're, going to the grand jury on Obama, right, bringing up stuff about Hillary Clinton, right, they're going after Tish James in New York, right. This is absolutely about attacking political enemies without cause, weaponizing law enforcement in this nation in a way that we haven't seen in this nation in a very long time. And I think that we should not pretend that we've never seen it, because indeed we have. But this is these are scary times, and so we appreciate the courage of the legislators from Texas. We appreciate the courage of Representative Charlene Ward Johnson. And I appreciate you joining us to sort of wrap up this hour in this conversation, Anoa. We certainly will be talking about this for a long time. And certainly
yes, indeed.
To the midterm elections. So thank you for joining us. This is KBLA Talk 1580. You're listening to the Black Pack. Stay with us.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. Former New York Governor Andrew Cuomo, now running for New York City mayor, denies speaking with President Trump about the race.
I've never spoken to him about the mayor's race.
This comes after a New York Times report claimed they had a call. Rivals Iran Mamdani slammed Cuomo over it, but Cuomo did not respond, only